I don't have full Ancestrals, I've not Masterworked, I don't even have my 4th and 5th Paragon board, the season's only been out for like a day. Anyway, here's tier 3 Duriel. Who says sorcerers are looking weak? Hello, my fellow sorcerers, and welcome to Season 7. And honestly, you should be getting excited, because this is shaping up to be the most purely fun season for Sorcerer yet. We have received huge damage buffs. We have received mechanical changes that free us from constrictive, boring, forced playstyles that we've suffered for over a year. We now have the ability to do so many genuinely unique and powerful builds, many of which are new to this season. And not to mention that sorcerers out of everyone might well have the most ability to leverage the quite frankly ridiculously overtuned witch powers. But before we can do all of that, we have to get all of that. So this then is your best early endgame sorcerer build. It's your best, easiest build to farm the actual best build quickly in. It's your, I've just hit level 60 with the incinerate leveling, I want to get to Torment 4 and get farming as hard as possible right now. What do? Fireball! And yes, you are seeing it do its thing. And again, to really stress, I do not have ancestral gear. I barely have any Paragon points. I've not even managed to go in to this board yet. I'm missing the 50% multiplicative on bosses from new Icefall. I really am suffering gear-wise, but it just doesn't matter because Fireball. From the looks of things, the whatever kind of bug that was making it do inordinate amounts more damage than it should isn't fixed, which is wonderful, and it's as easy to gear as can be. Varshan drops most of the key components, and you're going to have loads of hearts because we're doing loads of whispers, because that's the whole theme of the season with headhunts. But even without Staff of Endless Rage, right here I am doing my tier 35 pit to unlock Torment 2 with a wand and focus, so I just have the single fireball line, and it was still hilariously comfortably easy with even worse gear than I have currently. And then this, as you've been watching for the most part, is the Torment 3 unlock, which was, to be frank, a joke. This is it then. This is your free golden ticket to Torment 4 to exist comfortably, to blow everything literally up, and get all of the perfect gear you need for all of the other awesome builds as smoothly as can be. But make no mistake, peak, min, max, have everything that you could want Fireball is still in contention for build of the season for us, so you don't even have to swap if you don't want to, and eventually I will be back with, you know, the supreme version, assuming you have access to literally everything, but that would be unfair to do right now because, again, it's like been a day and a bit of the season. But between the changes that we have had, the witch powers, and a few other little tweaks here and there, it is better than ever is Fireball. It's not just last season's, but again, there's some really fun stuff now, especially the focus on Inferno and having 100% uptime on our fiery snake friend for a massive damage increase. That is seriously fun. Having Frost Novas spamming everywhere from your Ice Blades for even more damage multipliers, that is seriously fun. And then playing into the witch powers, which by themselves can one-shot everything, well, you know what I'm going to say. And it certainly doesn't hurt that this build now is incredibly tanky compared to before out the box, and also is an instant unique boss destroyer, again out the box, which is one of the key things to farm. And root holds tend to be quite open in space, and they are the best things to farm, so Fireball doesn't get eaten by corridors, because fair warning, in tight spaces, this is still incredibly frustrating to play, because pillars and walls will just delete your bouncing fireballs, and then it feels kinda bad. But mana solves itself as soon as you get Gloves of the Illuminator. It's easy never to hit our res caps, and genuinely is just literally the best early endgame build in the game, not just Sorcerer. So let's do this. Season 7 then, for the first time, skill tree from me to thee. We begin then with any given 2 points in your basic skill area, then ignore them and move on to your cause, where you get your fireball, max it out, over to enhanced and then destructive for that lovely critical strike damage multiplier. Get 3 out of 3 in your elemental dominance, because we will mostly be above 50 mana with how much Gloves of the Illuminator just solves your mana by itself, so this is just free damage. Then we move over to your defensives, where we get ourselves teleport for both the movement speed and the damage reduction and, you know, the ability to teleport, and then glass cannon. It's free damage, so we might as well. However, glass cannon this season has lost a lot of value. It gives you 18% more damage, right? But we have things like Inner Flames that's also 18% more multiplicative damage, however, it doesn't make you take more damage. We have things like Permafrost too, so it's fine, but since we can get just as much damage without the downside, we're only going to be taking this when either we're doing very easy content or we have points to spare, but we won't often have points to spare. We do, however, now have them, unless you choose to do one of the few optional swaps that I'll go over at the end of the skill tree. In any case, for now, yeah, damage. Then we take Ice Armor into Enhanced and then Shimmering, so it's always up, but chiefly we just want to be able to press it at least every 5 seconds for a aspect and a glyph. Then we take Frost Nova, because this really is Season of the Frost Nova for us. This mystical upgrade to make everything hit take 15% more multiplicative damage, even bosses, and for 8 seconds, is glorious. And it becomes the first of our enchantments, as we'll be applying it with our Ice Blades with our Lightning Spear. This is going to see a lot of enchantment use, and honestly it's really refreshing to see the enchantment meta get a little bit of a shift. Firebolt, who even is that? Then we go over to said Conjurations, where we grab 3 out of 3 lucky hit. This one is a bit flexible, you don't have to take this, but we have some valuable lucky hit effects like said Frost Nova Enchant, and also Orange Herald for ultimate cooldown reduction, so it does help. Grab Ice Blades into Enhanced and then Roaring for the cooldown reduction, especially early game like this, where we don't have as perfect gear. The cooldown reduction is very, very useful. Although Invoked is really good now. This is 2nd bucket attack speed according to the devs, which makes it really valuable, and I have no doubt it will rear its head later on, but we just can't afford to take it for now. Then we grab ourselves Protection for the constant barriers whenever we press stuff, and then Mana Shield for the damage reduction for, again, pressing stuff, chiefly Fireball and spending mana. Then we grab ourselves Lightning Spear into Enhanced and then Invoked. The main reason for this is, yes, stunning everyone's nice, yes, vulnerable help is nice, but we just want more things flying round to hit stuff with Frost Nova, as well as the Ice Blades, which, yes, are your 2nd enchant. Get used to seeing this combo a lot. If you prefer to be more mobile, you can put your teleport in and then get rid of the Frost Nova points and spend them elsewhere, but I really do like the extra crowd control and damage it provides. Over to Mastery, where we just want the Inner Flames and Devouring Blaze passives for a big free damage, and then we move on to Ultimates. We now get Permafrost, which does affect all your damage, not just frost skills. It is a typo with the actual description. I'm sure it will be fixed, but the devs did tell us that it is all of the damage, as did the patch notes, so this is just really, really good now. Alongside Hoarfrost, because we will be doing a lot of frozen enemies with your Frost Nova, as well as the Temper chance to freeze, so yeah, again, big free damage, as well as Icy Touch for just more damage to vulnerable enemies, which they always will be. We have many ways to make things vulnerable, like rank 5 in Inferno, which we want to take, both for that and the cooldown reduction it gives it. Then Prime for the pull-in, but mainly Supreme for that 50% damage increase. This is why we always want to have an Inferno up, which is why we want to be able to cast it at least every 8 seconds, which at a base of 18 is very easily doable. We then move into Endless Pyre and Warmth just so we can get to Soulfire for the extra damage it provides. Take the free cooldown reduction because, like, It's free cooldown reduction, and then finally we get Essu's Ferocity. The reason being is because we kind of need Ancient Flame to give us the attack speed early on when we don't have things like Starless Skies to really amp our attack speed. That said, Enlightenment is pretty much just as good. It feels a little bit clunkier, it's slower to build, but it's very, very close. And if you take Enlightenment, you can replace Ancient Flame with an offensive aspect, so there is advantages there, but I think early game with worse gear, Essu's Ferocity plus Ancient Flame does feel better. So that's the kind of standard skill tree. However, there are some changes you can make. If you are struggling with mana, take 3 points out of Glass Cannon and put it in Primordial Binding for the mana regeneration with the stacks of Lightning Spear and Ice Blades. If you are struggling to stay alive, take the points out of Lightning Spear, put one of them into Flame Shield in order to have that immunity option, which isn't really needed as we're progressing through the Torment tiers. We're mainly doing headhunt zones and stuff, but it is there if you need it. And then if you are struggling to meet your resist caps and are taking too much damage, if you've pushed into Torment 3 or Torment 4 too early, because your damage will get there long before your survivability from your gear quality does, well, then you want to take again the points out of Glass Cannon and instead put them in Potent Warding for that extra all resist. So there we are. For playing this, it's very, very simple. I mean, it's Fireball. You stand there pressing Fireball, but there are a few nuances. The easy stuff is press Ice Blades on cooldown, press Lightning Spear on cooldown. Teleport to go fast through the content that you're doing, and to break stuns, get out of things on the floor, you know the drill. Ice Hammer when you're feeling threatened and want to not be threatened, and then make sure you cast Inferno at least once every 8 seconds, or as soon as it allows, depending on when the cooldown is up for you. The rest of the time, you're just pressing Fireball. That said, don't be fireballing something at point blank melee range, because you'll be doing a lot less damage than if you space it around like this, because it's the second and third bounce that does the big damage. So you want the second and third bounce to ideally hit your target, especially when it's a boss. Other than that, be careful with corridors, as I say, because it will just eat your fireball and then you'll run out of mana. It really sucks, especially in small pits, but other than that, you are good to go, and wide open spaces are your best friend. Press all your buttons, fire your fire, and enjoy your free Torment 4. For your gear then, aspects-wise, on your legs, you want Orange Herald, so we can reduce the cooldown of Inferno to get that every 8-second consistency, and then you want Aspect of Concentration for just reliable damage reduction, as we'll always be pressing Blades and Spear. Offensively, on your ring, you want Ancient Flame for that 50% attack speed, that's why we take Essu's Ferocity, and then on your amulet specifically, you want 3 curses to multiply up that critical strike damage increase. For your uniques then, you have Staff of Endless Rage and Gloves of the Illuminator. These are the big 2 of Fireball, you get them both and then you win. Gloves of the Illuminator is the main enabler, and you need to have a +2 mana on it or you'll run out of mana. Once you get Gloves, you can switch to Fireball, even if you don't have the Staff. But then when you do get the Staff, yeah, suddenly everything is going to get one shot. Outside of that, you want your Tal Rashes, your ever-reliable companion. The actual damage roll on it is more important than it being ancestral. You want at least above 20%. Then you have a Godslayer, which is better than a random helmet. It's not crazy, but the cooldown reduction's nice, the pull-in, the extra damage on the effect is nice. It's just fine until Helm of Perdition comes along. And then your boots. I have Essu's Heirloom on. The critical strike chance is lovely, the all resist is lovely, the critical strike damage is lovely. However, you do have options when it comes to boots. You can take Essu's Heirloom for a damage increase, a help to your all resist, a kind of middle ground. You can instead take Flicker Step to really guarantee that Inferno is always off cooldown, but the rest of the affixes aren't great. Or you can take not Yen's Blessing, I'm using this as an example, but Rakenov's Wake for the big resist all elements to really help you get that cap alongside the very useful cooldown reduction. That one is likely ideal, but you can't really go wrong with any of the free options. Affix wise then, on your legs you want to have armor, health and intelligence, and on your chest you want to have intelligence, mana per second and armor. All the other way around, that's okay too. On your ring you want attack speed and critical strike chance ideally, but life, intelligence, critical strike damage, that's all good too. On your amulet, the ideal amulet is intelligence, ranks to permafrost and ranks to devouring blaze. So this is kind of a cursed lucky drop because it's not even 750 item power, it's certainly not ancestral, but technically it's perfect. Ugh, I really hope that I do manage to get an ancestral version. In any case, yeah, this is ideal, but you can get away with just any given ranks to a skill that makes you do more damage, percent intelligence, attack speed, cooldown reduction, they are all solid for you. For your gems and runes and so on, you want critical strike damage in your weapon, you want intelligence in your helmet, and by the way, if you don't have Godslayers, you can just use a helmet like this with concussive strikes, and then you want rune-wise, something like Centec here, cast evade, make an earthquake. I found this quite nice for when you get surrounded, your fireballs aren't doing good at point blank, you're in a corridor, the earthquake will do its thing and help you out of that situation. That said, this one you can kind of do just the best you sort of have. The rogue shadows for defensives, the spiritborn vortex pull in. It's just a nice utility option, especially early game where we don't have everything. Obviously, eventually you want your barbarian warcry and your gain offering when you press a cooldown, or you're just the new gain offering every 0.3 seconds, and then it happens. The other side of things then, you want ideally a Tamgar, so you cast an unchanneled core skill and you get critical strike chance. This is just really solid and will get you off the ground fast. For your jewelry, obviously you will want occult gems, and we will go over that, but occult gems require a lot of materials and a lot of farming, and will relatively come along quite slowly compared to everything else in the season. You probably won't even have one yet when you're watching this. So the reality is you just want to use your jewelry gems to balance your armor and resist. I have 1000 armor, which is exactly where it needs to be, and I only need one skull to do that, so I only have one. The other two I've given to diamonds for all resist to help me with, yes, my all resist. So you just gotta kind of get a feel for that and plan accordingly. Which does take me on to, yeah, make sure you have your 1000 armor so you don't get squished. You can do that with, of course, your affixes, getting a GA armor, putting your skulls in, the percent armor temper, but make sure you do have the 1000 armor, and then ideally your 70% resist in all of these. If I actually use a skill, I go up to 58, which is at least something, but I'm kind of suffering from my gear here. If this necklace was ancestral, I'd go from 20% all resist to 30% all resist, which is obviously a huge increase and something I really need to make happen. The same with my rings not being ancestral for all resist, and even if I did have Rakenov's Wake and then I put that on, suddenly I am capped, so I really do need to get hold of a Rakenov's Wake. In any case, make sure you've got your 2 defensive caps going on. Which powers then? Oh, I've been waiting to say that. For the first time this season, let's get into the honestly awesome seasonal mechanic. You want Doom Orb as your unique witch power. It does big damage. It'll also be a part of nearly every endgame build, so getting it now, getting it to max rank is going to serve you well. The Eldritch tag on it is everything, but seriously, this will just kill stuff for you. It can solo unique bosses. It's so good. You are safe to get it and upgrade it. Now, as it's Eldritch, getting something like Purging Touch to make it do 21% more damage to head rotten, then at rank 10, so everything is really important. Later on, we'll also be making our core skills like Fireball have the Eldritch tag, so this will apply to that. This is a really safe one to get and upgrade. As is Shaken Soul to make our Eldritch effects apply vulnerable to give us always a source of vulnerable, so this one is solid. Then we have Soul Harvest, which again is going to come up a lot because just constantly gaining 1% primary stat that will last forever once you get it high enough level is really strong. Expect to see this all around the place. You are safe to get this and upgrade it. Then we have, yeah, you can just kind of choose what you like the look of. I've gone with Hex of Flames because it does a lot of damage, and then Aura of Siphoning because again it does a lot of damage to everyone around you, and at rank 10 it's a very good survivability tool. However, Aura of Siphoning is also good because once you get specialization into auras, you can make it give you a load of crit help, which is very, very nice, but for now it's also just kind of nice in of itself. Technically, Hex of Flames could be the lost power that gives you attack speed, as that's very good for Fireball, so if you do have that, use it, but this is just going to serve you well until we get into the proper min-max endgame of Witch Power Synergy. And talking of Witch Power Synergy, let's return to those Occult gems. As I said, it's going to be a while since you get these, because, you know, 100k fragments, and then they're also made up of 3 other gems that also need you to have a bajillion fragments on top of the fugitive heads and 1,000 restless rot a pop. We're going to be here a while. That said, Witching Hour is the one you want to aim for. This will give your core skills the Eldritch tag, so then it will get buffed by all of the Eldritch buffing powers we have in. So if you want a direction, this is the way. Get your Pointed Finger, your Phantom String, your Killing Wind, and then make this. If you want something in the meantime that's more approachable to get, well, any of them are good because the armor and all resist is really useful, but the one to most kind of sort of go towards is Eldritch Powers doing more damage. This will eventually affect your actual skills with Witching Hour, but it'll also affect your Doom Orb for now, which is very helpful, so yeah, Wicked Pact. When it comes to Tempering, on your chest you want % total armor and chance to freeze, and on your legs you want % total armor and chance to freeze. That said, if I had more Obdusite and I could upgrade this chest, it would give me enough armor by itself, so if you don't need the second % total armor, instead do Ice Armor Duration for extra tankiness. On your ring, you want Inferno cooldown reduction and ideally Pyromancy attack speed, but Pyromancy crit damage, and fire damage are all good too, and then exactly the same on your necklace. For your Masterworking, always hit the ranks, so Fireball and your staff on your gloves, any ranks on your necklace, hitting cooldown reduction is always nice, and everything else is kinda obvious. For your Mercenaries, in your primary Follow Me Everywhere, you want Rahia, because this is an earlier game, get to Torment 4 as easily as possible, so the 15% all resist really helps with that to make those resist caps. And on top of that, with Ground Slam and then Bastion into Inspiration, he does make you do a lot more damage periodically too, which is really solid. Then for your support, you want Reinforcement in Bloodthirst from Vajana for the 10% attack speed. Fairly simple, straightforward. Which then takes us to our Paragon, where we've had a lot of exciting and powerful changes and buffs. Of course, I am coming at this from having 114 points, this is early season, but I will give you an idea of where to go if you have more than me. For now, you want to start getting up Elementalist, then go left, getting Resilience, getting more all resist, as it's very helpful early game, and then to the Glyph where we put Tactician. This being 15% now is really, really solid, and it does well for us here. Get it activated with the Dex, get it upgraded as soon as possible for the extra radius, and then grab Studied and Elemental Balance and into the next board, our first proper board, which is your Fundamental Release. Glyph closest to the gate, head up and right through this vulnerable damage because we don't need the willpower, grab yourself Lightning Cutter, then head over to the Glyph where we have Unleash. Now technically there is better glyphs than Unleash for Fireball, but they are specific to Fireball, whereas Unleash will be helpful across many builds, so I'd recommend focusing on it to begin with, as it'll be more helpful and valuable to your time. Get it activated by grabbing Elemental Balance and said Lightning Cutter you already got, and the extra intelligence around the place. Then we want to head up and right, stopping by Overdrive before heading right to the gate. Of course, always spring up to get the actual legendary node 2, and now this here is Frigid Fate, big damage increase. Arrange it like so, going straight across to this Dex and down to the Glyph where we find ourselves Elementalist, get it activated with Elemental Favor, and then up through Weakness and round to Frigid Fate. Then we head back to here, where we are going to then go left from the glyph, stopping by electromagnetism, and then into this next board, which is going to be your searing heat. If you have more points than me, you want the legendary node to be bottom left, initially go to the glyph, and then path all the way down through combustion to get to searing heat. But because I have fewer points, if you are the same as me, you want to put the legendary node close to the gate and then just rush for it because it's a nice big damage increase thanks to its changes. Then we want to head back to the fundamental release, head up, grab Kindling, go left for Suffused Resilience, get even more All Resist, and then head up into the next board, which is where I've currently got to. This board is the buffed Icefall for 50% multiplicative more against bosses, which is just glorious, and you want to arrange it like this, with Polar Rime close to the gate, and initially make that beeline straight for that legendary node. Then you want to grab Polar Rime itself, and then head via Frost to the glyph slot, as well as, of course, get the glyph slot in here. The two glyphs that you will fill that with are going to be Destruction, as you might expect, and then Exploit. You can't go wrong with either. So that is your Paragon. And that is your early endgame fireball. As I say, I will return eventually in the season with the peak form of this, as it really is in the running to be just one of our best builds full stop, but it really cannot be stressed enough how solid this is for breaking into Torment 4 as fast and easily as possible. Like, if you have enjoyed this, subscribe and hit the bell for more, consider supporting the future of this channel on Patreon down below, and until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.